Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Mike Doloff at Inflow Communications, Chief Revenue Officer here. I have with me Jim McGarry, and I also have with me Rich Fry from Mitel, who will be co-presenters with me today. Rich, Jim, say hello, introduce yourself briefly if you don't mind.
Hello, everybody. Rich Fry here with Mitel. Thrilled to be on the call with you here with Mike and Jim.
Same for me as well. My name is Jim McGarry. I'm the UCaaS Channel Director, and happy to be talking through some Mitel migration plans for everybody.
Excellent. Thanks, Rich and Jim. Just by way of always doing webinars, obviously Inflow is. We're glad to have some great folks we work with at Mitel on this one. By way of a heads up, we've got a couple other webinars next. Actually, one of them is this week, and then the other one is next around emergency notification 911 best practices, and then also talking about one of the big challenges you see around contact center, which is staffing, and really the impact, some of the obvious but less obvious impacts of understaffed contact center, and of course ways to work through that and solve for it. So plugging some future ones that my colleagues will host. This will be recorded. If you have colleagues who won't be able to make this one and you want to share it with them, welcome questions throughout this whole conversation as well. We'll have a section at the end for Q&A, but feel free to ask questions at any time. We'll keep an eye on those. And with that, we'll jump right in. Just also by way of kind of context, we're going to jump more into, as you can see on the agenda, a little intro for us, what's going on with UCaaS and why are companies moving to UCaaS? We find it that a lot of companies, just like yourself, are really curious on what else is going on, what kind of high level is happening in the space driving this interest. What are the reasons people are making this transition to unified communications as a service? We'll jump into what Mitel's working on. Mitel, one of the industry leaders in unified communications as a service. Talk about that, and then we'll talk about where Inflow and Mitel can bring value to our customers. So this won't be a demo. We won't be jumping into that. That will certainly be one of the takeaways, is if this is something interesting, let's jump into that. It's much better when it's personalized, customized to your use case and environment. So this will be kind of giving you some education on what's going on in this space. And with that, let's jump right in. So Inflow Communications, we are a national unified communications and contact center solution provider. You might have met us on other webinars in the past. We love to educate, inform, share what's going on, and help empower customers in this space. This is what we live and breathe and love it. Jim and Rich and I get excited talking about this stuff because this is our world. We love this stuff. Inflow is a ShoreTel Mitel Platinum partner. We also work with other solutions, but Mitel Platinum Partnership is the highest tier of a partner status, and we are really proud of our relationship with Mitel and excited that we've been working with them very successfully for a number of years. We're spread across the U.S. We support over 200,000 endpoints, 800 customers nationally with offices globally. For us, it's about customer experience, and that's certainly a big buzzword these days, but really at the end of the day, we're sort of selling the service and capabilities of helping customers around their UC and contact center technology. It would be pretty ironic if we didn't have good customer experience in what we're doing, but that's certainly sort of the bedrock of who we are and what we do. So enough about us. This is about you guys and helping educate. So we're going to jump right into, these are some of our customers. I guess I forgot that slide. Some of the great customers we work with, but let's make this about you guys and help and share some of what we see going on. So why are companies looking at unified communications as a service? What's going on? What's driving this? So there's a couple things I want to hit on first. One of them is there's a ton of disruption in the space right now. And really this has happened in the last just few years. You have a lot fewer premise UC players. Mitel, right on the call, has a prem UC offering. That's their background, in fact. But there's not a lot of those players, really, right? There's been a lot of consolidation. Obviously, ShoreTel being acquired by Mitel, other consolidation, other folks shifting their energy, including Mitel, largely to the cloud. That's where a lot of the innovation's happening, right? So you've got this sort of monumental shift that there's a lot more UC as a service providers and players than there are UC. That's where the market's going. That's where the innovation's going. There's been some of the we'll talk about some of the other reasons, but part of it too has been 10 years ago, people would be really concerned about bandwidth, call quality. 5 years ago, same story. Even today, that comes up a lot, but there's been a lot of changes. Obviously, bandwidth seems to be increasing exponentially. So there's less of this, hey, we're all coming through this 1.5 meg MPLS leg. How are we going to have voice come through this as well? That's less of a concern. And obviously, from cloud perspective, call quality is huge, probably the #1 issue or question we get asked about it. SD-WAN also has a huge hand in that as well, where a lot of companies looking at how do I optimize our internet traffic with voice and UCaaS solutions being part of that stack and problem being solved for. So there's some of these changes going on that are disrupting what's been status quo for many years. Another thing beyond that too is, it's specifically unified communications as a service, not hosted PBX or hosted voice or whatever. People call them different things synonymously, but this is truly unifying communications beyond just a phone, an endpoint, a soft phone, right? Where's messaging fit in? Where's video fit in? What about SMS? We have a much, mobile's been a topic for a long time, but how's that really being addressed? All these sort of needs and desires from organizations are really being fulfilled largely by the cloud at this point. And so you'll get to see a lot of, Jim will talk a little bit later about how Mitel is doing that. So that's a huge change going on. Another one that I think it's overlooked, but it's sort of right in front of our faces is there's a lot of changes in the workplace, right? You hear this outside of IT and technology conversations, but just look at the dynamic of shifting in the workplace. Who's working in there? The age of employees working in there, this big shift. You've got companies now, totally different generations of workers than they had a decade ago. You have because of technology and other reasons, you've got a lot more global and sometimes distributed workforces. And a lot of this is exposed sort of the challenges for IT to provide feature functionality and really tools for a business to be able to internally or externally communicate, because what worked 10 years ago maybe isn't what's needed today or desired today, or what's helpful for the business to operate optimally today. So a ton of these changes going on. And so you see IT really helping drive sort of in a different direction for the business, because they have different needs than they did a couple of years ago. So it's a huge shift affecting things for UCaaS. And another one that's really important is money. And so obviously there's this trend of people are moving to UC as a service. That's obviously that people are voting with their wallets when that happens. But you also have an important factor in here as well, which is, look, the companies, Mitel, this is no shame on this. This is throughout the world. Mitel and other UC as a service providers, right? Their valuation as a company, how they can be profitable, make money, and be where they want to be financially, is a lot better, a lot more significant for them when they are when they're looking at recurring revenue, right? So a lot more investment, a lot more attention, and a lot more importance placed on those solutions in that space. So again, those are all important factors why UCaaS is really rising and been taking off. If you're feeling like you're late to the game, hey, we're just looking at UCaaS, we're on-prem, guess what? You're not late to the game. Most people aren't on UCaaS yet. There's a whole lot more folks with a prem system today across the world than there are on UC as a service. Obviously, that percentage is shifting over time. But I would say one of the tipping points that Jim and Rich probably have seen this as well. 5 years ago, when you talked to UC as a service, it was largely the sub 100 seats, 50 seats or below, the SMB market, as it was kind of termed, would be the ones going, and that was kind of where that's where the bulk of that was at. A couple of years ago, 1 to 2 years ago, we started seeing mid-market and enterprise now working with customers with 50,000 employees or 100,000 employees, 2,000, 5,000, all these different ranges also going this direction. It's become sort of adopted and more mainstream for that. And that was a tipping point, I think, where this became, didn't matter what the size was. This is a solution for everybody. And it took a little while for kind of the upper market to warm up to that idea. They're there, and that tipping point's reached. Like I said, not late to the party, but those dominoes are starting to fall that direction, which is also exciting from a feature functionality perspective. A lot of those enterprise class features now are really starting to get implemented, put in there, because they're being driven by those who are moving that direction, customers moving there. So that's kind of why some of those themes of why UCaaS is really taking off, what we're seeing and hearing from customers as we talk with them. And I'm going to turn it over now to Jim to really talk about where Mitel fits in this landscape and what they've got going on. Jim?
Perfect, Mike. Thanks so much, and thanks to everybody on the call. I think thanks not only for joining, but thank you for continuing to be Mitel/ShoreTel customers. Obviously, we've been through a lot of changes. As a lot has happened within this industry, But we are very excited, not only with where we've been, but where our future is taking us and where we're headed. So, really what we're going to focus on today is some of the latest and greatest things that we're talking about, not only in UCaaS, but where Mitel is differentiating in the marketplace, and how we're taking our platform and completely changing the conversation in this UCaaS world, which is flooded with lots and lots of our competitors. And the big thing that we're going to talk about, and I think probably the most revealing thing, as you can see on that slide, is that Mitel MyCloud Connect is now built on Google Cloud. And that is wildly important for us within the industry, because this is the first time from a UCaaS provider perspective that someone can say that we're not buying our services through a rack space only, right? We're not just having our call control on AWS, where some of our product is featured at today, but we're also partnering with an industry leader who is actually helping us with this migration from the traditional data center services for our call control into the Google Cloud Platform, as we refer to it as GCP. And you can go to the next one, Mike. So a lot of times we get asked is, what's the difference between being built on Google Cloud versus integrating with Google Cloud? And that's really a line of differentiation for us. The same platform that you trust when you're using Gmail and Google Drive, Chrome, YouTube, these are all platforms that are incredibly secure. They are known for their availability within the marketplace. I'm going to knock on wood real quick, but Google is one of the few data centers that's out there, one of the providers that's out there, that has not suffered a major critical outage or had a security breach in it as well. So when we were looking to partner with providers in that data center space, this was the clear favorite. And it was actually a partnership that Google approached us about as well, because they're funding and helping us drive marketing towards this conversation because of how important it is for them to start processing real-time calling information on it. So when we integrate with different products, right? So you're going to hear all the time from UCaaS providers and even Mitel that we can integrate with your G Suite solution. So we integrate some of our feature sets within Gmail, within Google Drive, and even Google Chrome. But being built on Google is a whole nother level of partnership where everyone can kind of integrate from an API perspective. Being built on Google Cloud is actually a massive shift and an implementation and a platform change in the direction in which we go. So you can go to the next one, Mike, and we can share with you really what that buys you and what that affords you as being a customer. So obviously one of the things that I mentioned today was really focused on security. And I think everyone on this call has probably heard it a time or two of how security is important to you, not just inside of your business, but what you're doing with that data, and actually the physical security and the transactional security of the nature of the phone calls that we have. Ultimately scalable. So living in the data center world for as long as we did, as becoming the #1 leader in UCaaS seats worldwide, we recognize that there's a lot that comes when you're adding servers and you're adding call processors inside of your data center architecture. What used to take us months to have to forecast and project out from an implementation side of things for how many users we're adding onto the system, that same process can now take us about 15 minutes now operating inside of the Google Cloud Platform. So the ability to adjust on the fly, the ability to add resources, add memory, spin up new instances for our customers is the most scalable in the industry, which is incredibly important to us with the massive growth that we're continuing to see on the UCaaS platform. Ultimately reliable, right? So now that we're inside the Google Cloud Platform, again, that same reliability that we're seeing from Google, just flat out from YouTube, from Google itself, from Chrome, that's the same reliability that you can expect from the Mitel platform, to the point where we are offering uninterrupted service for our customers, even in cases of an upgrade. So being built on a 5.9 platform, moving to 6.9s, we're talking about a whole new 9 that is coming from Mitel. And yes, you can hashtag it if you want. Hashtag new 9 is something that we've been talking about and trying to trend, but that's exactly what we're talking about here. This is a new 9 of service for UCaaS customers. And then obviously with that comes the compliances that I have a slide that is a little bit farther back, so I'll hit on that in just a moment. So I mentioned security. We talked about it a little bit, but this is obviously a big point for us. In Mike's earlier presentation, he had mentioned how important security is, and he had also mentioned the Mitel end-to-end solution. So one of the things that we talk to our customers about all the time is that yes, Mitel has been in the telecommunications industry for the last 45 years. Nobody knows it better than us. Nobody's been doing it longer than us from that perspective. And what that affords you is obviously the ability to not only have feature sets that we've always expected to have inside of our phone system, but we have those on the UCaaS side now. It also allows us the ability to tie handsets much more closely to the software experience that so many of our customers enjoy. And when we tie our handsets into it, when we bring that experience onto the desktop as well, we're not only giving customers feature sets that they know and love and really tie together closely, but we're also taking it a step further with security from an encryption standpoint, meaning that every single phone call that leaves the Mitel handset through our data center over the web, wherever we're located, is SSL encrypted end to end. So not only are we tied to a Google data center that is the most secure in the world, we're actually encrypting all of that traffic that is leaving our phones all the way through the data center at the same encryption level that most of our banks end up using as well. So not breaking that, being able to keep your voice secure, and that monitoring that goes along with it as well. So important to note that from a security perspective before Mike goes to the next one. And depending on the customers who are on the phone today, this may be of importance to you, but HIPAA and SOC 2 compliance is something that is absolutely available to all of our customers now, now that we've made that migration to GCP. This is not something that you have to wait for. This is actually something that is here. It is here today. We can migrate over our customers today for anyone that's important to. And the HIPAA compliance is actually the BAAs, the business associate agreements that come with HIPAA compliances, can actually be added immediately to a quote. So that when you sign off on that, when Mitel signs off of that, we have an agreement of a business associate agreement from a HIPAA compliance perspective. That means we're ready to do business together and we're ready to handle and maintain your data in the way that it's expected. So that is there and available. And I talked about high availability already with a new 9, but we're approaching, or we already are there with this move to GCP and 5 nines of service. Most UCaaS providers actually operate at a 4 nines level, and Mitel did for a really long time as well. And that's just the data center game. That's part of being in that service and part of being there. But now when we're making a change to such a massive platform, to such a massive network and data centers globally, we're actually now able to offer that 5.9 SLA. We're able to offer that uninterrupted service and continually progress to the plans that we're seeing outlined right now, which would eventually get us to a 6.9 platform. Not only are we monitoring all those data centers, we are constantly building up the analytics within the GCP platform to be able to tie that into our reporting and be much more predictive in our nature when we're working with you individually as customers. And I'll have you skip past the faster deployments because I talked through that a little bit, Mike, already when I covered how quickly we can spin up instances. But take a look at what this GCP network gets us as soon as we've made this migration over, which is active and is happening today. So for any of the people there that are any customers on the call that are looking to migrate from on-site to cloud, when you make that change, you will be migrated over to our GCP instance. It is up and it is active, and that's what we're moving forward on. So as soon as we do that, our instance is controlled in all of these data centers around the globe. That continues to expand with Google. And the important thing to note here is that local number portability is constantly growing in these markets with us as well. So you just look at the data centers in North America and even in the US. I mean, it is a massive change from where we're at today, being able to route calls based on location, and obviously expanding our number portability is vitally important to us here. And I talked a little bit about the analytics side of things, but again, it can't be overstated, I guess, with this move to GCP, the data that we have access to now that we're in the Google Cloud Network, the APIs that have been made available to us, and the automation that we're constantly adding into our client, all of that's being driven by this move to this platform, because now the access to the memory, the speeds and feeds that we needed to be able to perform at such a high level is exactly what we've been waiting for. That's what Google has partnered with us on. So look for that to continually expand month over month, quarter over quarter. Our roadmap has continued to grow based on the accessibility of our platform and based on what the needs of our customers are. All right, so GCP, if that is the number one biggest thing that I want to share with you today, this is absolutely 1A, right? So I don't want to understate this, but Mike has already talked about the engagement in customer experience, the buzzword that I would hope that we've all focused on for so long, but is now becoming a buzzword, and people are building businesses around it. So what we're going to talk about today is MyCloud Connect CX, which is now powered by Talkdesk. For Mike, I know he knows the Talkdesk name. For a lot of you folks who have started to look into the CCaaS world, which is the contact center as a service, this is where our engagement with Talkdesk has really come in. So you can go to the next one, Mike. And what this is going to afford our Mitel customers is the ability to add on a whole new lever of enterprise contact center. When you see the Talkdesk or the MyCloud Connect CX platform in its environment and working at the way that it can, this can truly be a differentiator for contact centers alike. And it doesn't have to be a contact center that we're all thinking of or that we've all thought of in the past with 400 people sitting in a massive warehouse just on the phone all day, right? Thinking of like those boiler room scenarios. These are tools that are embedded into our customer success organizations, our support organizations, marketing, sales can all leverage the power of this contact center platform, because it truly is about engaging with our customers the way they want to communicate with us, whether it's social media, whether it's instant message, whether it's emails, phone calls, all of that works together to make a predictive experience for our customers. And with the power that we have behind the Talkdesk piece, Talkdesk has been an industry unicorn for quite some time, but this is the first time that they've actually ever branched out and partnered with a UCaaS provider to tie in that experience completely. So this MyCloud Connect CX will actually exist inside of our Google data center, no different than our Connect platform does today. And you can progress the slides along. And what that really is going to afford us the ability to do is, again, for these over-the-top contact centers, anytime you'll hear the story of what the AI and the analytics and the CX advantage that the CX platform that's built today, you always hear about over-the-top minutes, right? Costing 2.5 cents per minute in some scenarios when you're starting to use those services. What we love about the Connect CX platform, how we're partnered with Talkdesk, is as long as you're a Mitel UCaaS customer, there is no additional charge for over-the-top minutes on our CX platform. So these are a lot of things that as you venture down this path, I might be getting way ahead of myself for where you are at in your process, but this is an important and a distinct advantage that we're offering our customers so that you don't have to pay over-the-top minutes. Your monthly costs are much more predictable when we're doing that as well. All right, go ahead, Mike. I'll wrap up here. I'm getting very, very close. The last thing that I really wanted to talk about is more or less where Talkdesk fits, and there's some technical terms on here as well. But when you think about the CX platform powered by Talkdesk, think about all of the applications and the communications tools that you use today. If we could give those an inflection point where all of those tools come together and operate as one, plus being a predictive engine for the way that your customers want to communicate, that's ultimately where we are. And you're going to constantly hear more and more about AI being built into a platform and being able to give you and your employees predictive tools to pass out information to customers, to show you maybe trouble tickets or help desk tickets that have come in, to show you what their last engagement was on social media before reaching out to you. These are all tools that are built into the CX engine, and we're going to continue to grow those partnerships. We're going to continue to grow those integrations. That's going to make this a truly customer-focused experience, and that's really what we're focused on every single day. And then the last slide here is really about the setup. You know, you can think about the way that a product like what Mitel is doing from Connect and our CX perspective, and think about, man, that sounds like a massive task, right? That sounds like a massive change to our environment. Well, we all know that change is coming. I think we feel it every single day. But the important part about working with Mitel, as well as with working with Inflow, is that we have the service and the support around you, not just from a project management perspective and selling the product. It's from advancing your configurations, making sure that they fit for exactly what you need. It's about the user training and the adoption of those products within your organization. And it's about the ongoing support that you have from Inflow and Mitel together to truly be able to make this an experience that we take over as much of the heavy lifting as we can from that PBX and that contact center perspective. So if there are any questions about the direction in which Mitel is headed, I'm hopeful that what you saw from us today, in just these brief glances, are industry-leading products powered by some of the biggest names and the biggest brands in the entire industry. And we're going to continue to build and grow on those brands, offering a superior customer experience and offering the uptime and the availability that you expect to continue to run your business. And Mike, with that, I think I'll turn it over to you.
I should unmute myself. It always has to happen once every call, right? So
That's right.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, the perfect overview. Hopefully, I think that gave everyone a really nice insight into what Mitel's been up to the last little while and some of the new things going. And like you said, these aren't sort of vaporware things in the future. These are things that are here and available today. And as customers are making this transition, they're leveraging GCP, right? As that, and that's a huge difference. That's a big. I always think of it in terms of let Mitel gets to focus on what they're good at, which is creating world-class UCaaS software, right? And now let Google focus on what Google's good at, which is building amazing public cloud infrastructure. And on that note, kind of tying all these pieces together, I want to kind of hit some of the highlights of where do Inflow and Mitel, what do we bring to you as a customer or potential customer? So, you know, we hit a lot of these points, but to recap for Mitel, right, the Google Cloud infrastructure on so many levels, from scalability, speed of deployment, Mitel's being able to focus and where they need to focus, security, compliance, all these different areas. It's a massive change and improvement, really, I think, on what Mitel's focus from a UCaaS perspective. Obviously, Mitel has an awesome background in pedigree and telephony, and that continues forward into UCaaS. And I'll tell you, that is not the case across the board. That's a big, if you have, you know, uses in your organization that require some of the what you'd call kind of bread and butter telephony features and functions. Not everybody has that, actually. Believe it or not, we get to see that landscape. It's a huge advantage for Mitel. Jim talked about this, I won't belabor, but the end-to-end Mitel story is unique, is different, and is important. So noting that's a huge advantage that Mitel has. It's really important. If you're an existing Mitel customer, there's a lot of ways to leverage your on-prem system if you're looking at a cloud migration. I won't get into the different ones, but there are many ways to do that from a investment and/or hardware perspective. How do you leverage that? Well, Mitel's definitely thought of you as they're transitioning a lot of energy and customers in the cloud. What are ways that you can make that? There's a whole conversation to be had there that we'd be happy to have. And then lastly, just from a familiarity and history, Mitel's not fly by night, hasn't been doing this for a couple of years. This is a company, I remember the exact year count, but 40 plus years, something like that, dealing with telephony. And so this is not something new to them. And if you've got familiarity and history with that, you can continue that going forward if you're looking at cloud. From an Inflow perspective, what we bring to the equation is we're a platinum partner of Mitel, obviously, so a ton of experience with Mitel, working with them, working with their products. But we also broadly understand and know the entire UC and UCaaS landscape. For that matter, the contact center and contact center as a service landscape. And obviously, I've purposely partnered with Mitel in this regard because we like what they're doing. We like what they're doing. We like where they're going. And so we've got a ton of depth and visibility broadly, but also a ton of it focused on Mitel. As a business, we help with prem to cloud and cloud to cloud migrations all the time. That's what we do, right? That's what we're doing a lot right now. Do a ton of prem deployments and growth as well. A lot of customers are early in this journey where they're not ready. So we help with that for sure. But that cloud migration, like Jim said, how do you make that so it's something that's a win for IT? It's a win for your end users. It checks the boxes that you want to check, whether it's DR, business continuity, feature functionality, reducing potential workload or infrastructure for IT, you name it, helping make sure all those objectives are met, making that transition happen. As a company too, the last part is as you move to as a service technology, you as the customer are even more so in control, right? You get a vote with your wallet on what stays and what goes regularly, right? Throughout your contract of, do we keep this? Are we getting value out of it? So it puts you in the driver's seat on that, which is great. It puts Inflow and Mitel in the seat of needing to make sure we're constantly earning your business, and which is what Inflow as a company and Mitel as well have invested in doing, making sure you're optimizing what you have. You know, when you move to a UCaaS solution, your value of what you get out of that's going to be in the low percentages. If you're looking at it from 0 to 100, it's going to be a low percentage because you're not going to turn on every feature function. There's going to be a lot of growth in that platform. There's going to be a lot of growth in how you adopt things as an organization. So what's the plan of helping you continually adopt and drive value out of that? That's where we come in. That's what we can help with. And we've invested in that from a contact center perspective, from a customer success perspective, to help really make sure your investment gets maximized. I think we're right at the time, and I've got a Q&A slide, and then I'll wrap with that. I was looking to see, I think everything that's been asked has been answered up to this point. For sure, if you have questions that you didn't get to shoot out there, put them out there now for the next minute or so as we're wrapping up. And then I'll leave you with, I think there's nothing more powerful than looking at your organization and looking at what does this do, or what does this do for me as a business or an organization? Sign up for a demo. Let's jump into how you operate, what's important to your business, and help you start sort of mapping out where some of these improvements are, where some of the areas that you can really drive value if you're in IT to the rest of your organization, and how you would do that. Let's look in that. Just jump into that with a demo of the product, of really diving into your needs and all that. That's what we'd encourage you to do. Doing a sort of vanilla demo, which we can do. Jim and I have done that, but getting into it really more about your business and how you operate, much more powerful for you, much more of an understanding of what UCaaS could do for your business. So I'll leave you with that. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in. We hope to see you on another future webinar soon. Have a great rest of your day.